Hey, welcome to day 5 of your Chronological Bible. Just want to go over Genesis 15, 16, and 17. Two extremely great points to be made in this reading. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on what we read, just the important parts of what it is that was said today. So as you read it, you came across this thing called the 400-year prophecy. You may not have realized this, but it was talking about Joseph and his descendants being slaves in Egypt for 400 years. In Genesis 15, verses 13 through 16. Then the Lord said to Abraham, "You can be sure that your descendants will be strangers in a foreign land where they will be oppressed as slaves for 400 years. But, but I will punish the nation that enslaves them, and in the end they will come away with great wealth. As for you, you will die in peace and be buried at a ripe old age. After 4 generations, your descendants will return here to this land, for the sins of the Amorites do not warrant their destruction yet." Do not yet warrant their destruction. Okay, so first of all, the 400 years, that's when Joseph, you have Abraham, Isaac, Joseph, right? Jacob. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, which had the 12 tribes of Israel, and one of them is Joseph. Actually, that's not the 1/12 of the 12 tribes. It's his sons that become part of the 12 tribes. But Joseph is sold into slavery. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and then Joseph is sold into slavery. In 400 years, he at the beginning, he finds favor with Pharaoh, brings his dad and all his relatives there, and they're there for 400 years. But then they're oppressed, and then they're set free. But the whole point of them being in Egypt is not just because chance or happenstance. It's to give the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, all the other Zites that are the descendants of Ham who've turned their back on God, for their sin to run its course, and then God comes back, brings his people back, and uses his people to punish them. They were supposed to wipe them out, but they didn't do that, and then they were punished. The Israelites were punished because of it. So that is the prophecy of them going to Egypt and the purpose of them going to Egypt. Okay? And then the second thing, the second most important thing is about Isaac. You have Abraham and then Isaac. And I want to read a few things in here. Actually, there's a third thing that just briefly mentioned. Then God said to Abraham, this is Genesis 17, verse 9, "Your responsibility is to obey the terms of the covenant." So they don't have the 10 commandments yet. So God's making a covenant with Abraham at this point, and the covenant is that they are going to have to be circumcised. And as long as they have the mark of circumcision, notice that God is marking his people again. The mark of circumcision, then that means that they are honoring the covenant with God, and he's going to bless Abram through that. Now, that brings me to the third point, which is the most important point probably throughout all of the Bible, except for Jesus himself, which has many, many points. Genesis 17, verse 15. Then God said to Abraham at this point, "Regarding Sarah, your wife, her name will no longer be Sarai. From now on, her name will be Sarah, and I will bless her and give you a son from her. Yes, I will bless her richly, and she will become the mother of many nations." So Abraham was thinking, okay, great. She's really old. I guess it's going to be her maidservant Hagar. And Sarah's like, yes, it has to be through Hagar. So he has Ishmael through his maidservant Hagar. But God didn't say that. He said, you're going to have a son through your wife. Another reason why we only have one wife. But God replied, no. Abraham in verse 18 said, so Abraham said to God, "May Ishmael live under your special blessing." And God said, no. And get this. The relatives, the descendants of Ishmael, and all the other people from Ham and Japheth that are in the Arab nations of the world, they are not the special blessing. And it's all because of Ishmael that they think that land is there. Ishmael is the firstborn son, but not from Sarah. So they think that's their right to that land, and that the Israelites, the Hebrews, whatever you want to call them, should not be there. But God said, no, Sarah, your wife, will give birth to a son for you. You will name him Isaac, and I will confirm my covenant with him and his descendants as an everlasting covenant. As for Ishmael, I will bless him also, just as you have asked. I will make him extremely fruitful and multiply his descendants. He will become the father of 12 princes, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant, again in verse 21, this happens multiple times, but my covenant will be confirmed with Isaac, who will be born to you and Sarah about this time next year. So you skip over to chapter 21, which we haven't gotten to yet. In chapter 21, verse 12, but God told Abraham, do not be upset over the boy and your servant, Ishmael and Hagar. Do whatever Sarah tells you, for Isaac is the son, the one son, through whom your descendants will be counted. So, very, very important to understand the family lineage. You have from Noah all the way down to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph, and the prophecy of them being in Egypt, giving the Amorites and all of those people of the descendants of Ham in the land of Canaan who was cursed, a chance for their sin to run its course because it hadn't happened yet. So there's day 5. Hope you enjoyed it. Can't wait for the next one.